All the work I've done, and I've done some amazing work with some amazing teachers, facilitators, mentors. Nothing has transformed me, changed me from the moment I got off that table.
It started like most people in trying to fix ourselves. I had a lot of physical body pain when I was younger. The only thing that would help was massage, but the effects were short-lived. I intuitively knew there was something more there. I started to question all of my belief systems. 99% of them were untrue. And the 1% that was true was actually not serving me anymore. I mean, a decade plus of refining the actual process and experience. What is the value of being touched for hours on end? Can you quantify that? Not yet, but I think it's pretty important to a human being. What's the value of being seen and actually being known and listened to, not to be fixed, but just to be honored? I don't really get that in today's society.
In my case, it was for 6.5 hours, a 10-hour talk session.
You guys went 16 hours?
The sessions are so long because I'm trying to give them the space to fully inhabit all of the pain so that they can truly let go of it. You can't think your way out of this shit. One of my hopes is to fill a person with so much love and so much care. Their cup is filled and it's overflowing again. And it just pours out and affects the people they love. So that you get back to a place of realizing, oh shit, I've been running on 1/10 of the amount of self-worth and self-love. And this made me realize it.
How had I lived 55 years without this experience, and how I would have been if I missed it?
Jeez. Not even sure how to really start this one, but we have Kyle Coursey on today who, and also joined by Luke Storey, fellow brother and podcaster. And Luke's on because he and I both had a really beautiful, life-changing experience with Kyle and his work. And for me, how I've shared it with my friends and how I want to continue to support Kyle and his work. I want to understand his work better. It's really important to let people know about the work you're doing. And again, you came into our circle through our friend Mark Gober. And I'm not even sure how Mark, he told me, but the fact that you're here and, and all the work I've done, like was the most transformational experience I've had in the past, 8.5 years of my seeking. So we'll get into all that certainly today during the podcast, but thanks for being here, brother. I love you. I love your work. So grateful for you and your brotherhood, and excited to share you and your work with everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am too, because I'm sure we'll get into it, but the Kyle experience is many, many hours. It's very intensive, but it's all about you, whoever the healee or the client is, right? So it's like throughout that whole session that we did a couple months ago, I kept wondering, how did he come up with this? What's his backstory? I was like, wanted to know so much more about Kyle, but it was about me. So it was, it wasn't the setting for that. So I'm excited to learn more about how Kyle and his work came to be too.
Yeah. So maybe we start with just like a kind of general framework of the work, that Luke and I and others have experienced. And then, I'd love to just really get the kind of the roots of where this started and, how it came to be the work you're doing today.
Yeah. Would you like me to start that?
Yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah. It started, I think, like most people who do something similar to what I do start in trying to fix ourselves, right? I had a lot of physical body pain when I was younger. And so the only thing that would help was massage. And so I'd constantly get massage, but the effects were, they were short-lived, right? And so the more I started to explore that, I kind of started to see the holes in the system that was being applied. I intuitively knew there was something more there. And that's kind of like where it began, right? It was the exploration of like, there's something here. There's more than what people are doing. And I think there's more that could be done for another human being. And that was just a rabbit hole in and of itself, right? The first actual book I came across on psychosomatics really kind of changed my perspective on. I had been approaching everything from a physical level, and so I deeply immersed myself in study around all the physiology and the kind of like kinesiology, the body mechanics, right? And what I consistently saw is limited durability in the outcomes. And so I started to play with the psychosomatic concepts that I was starting to read about, and understanding that there were more layers to a human being that were currently being addressed in the standard model of just massage therapy. And from there, I ended up going to massage school to learn more about like anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, and to hopefully understand more about the techniques that they were using. It was a beautiful experience. I learned a lot. But again, it left me at the end of the road with just the physical applications. And so I started to seek out other modalities, techniques, kind of like approaches. Um, and what I consistently found is there was a lot of techniques or approaches that addressed a specific system in the body. And they're really good at leveraging that system with their either technique or their approach, but the system always kind of dead ended on itself. And from there, I started to develop this kind of like principle of like human beings being a really interconnected, complex organism. And in order to make meaningful change, one would probably need to pull more levers than just one. And so then I started to open up and explore all the systems of the human being and to see what actually affected them in meaningful ways. And from doing that, I started trying to progressively layer in more and more complexity into each session to try and hit as many variables or as many systems or pull as many levers as possible simultaneously, with this underlying belief system that the human organism, the human being, is a self-healing organism. It's usually some form of interference or distortion that's preventing it from going back to that homeostasis or coherence. And when I was about 25 or 26, I had my first Rolfing 10 series. And the woman was extremely good at what she did. And even though she came from the Rolfing background, she had a very deep understanding of how the psychosomatic layers affected a human being. And she held space really well. And in that session was the first time like it had all this unexplainable body pain that I've been trying to like treat, right? And doing all the things, working out, physio, rehab, all of it, and none of it progressing anywhere. And in those sessions, I started to have my first truly like emotional experiences around touch. And the stories just came out of nowhere. All the stories I'd been holding on to, all the pain I'd been through. And right there was that moment of like firsthand experience. And to me, that's kind of like where my work resides now. Is I believe that all these, for lack of a better term, interventions, they're really good and they're supportive. But if you're not treating the human being as a whole, and if the subjective experience of the human being is being left out, I think you're doing a disservice at the very least, you know? And how much more beautiful or effective could it be if you put the human being first? And from there, it was just a deep dive into neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, tribal wisdom, neurobiology. The list goes on. I've studied like autodidactically almost every kind of like approach or system in order to understand the first principles, mechanisms at which they're moving the needle, and glean what I call like the bit of gold from each of those either treatments or interventions or strategies in order to, like I said earlier, affect as many systems simultaneously in an extended duration session as possible. And the extended duration comes from this concept I gleaned from doing iboga, which is, like, for lack of a better term, time under tension. And that's a term stolen from physiotherapy or like bodybuilding world, where the longer you expose a muscle to stress, the more it rips, the more it grows. What I found in human beings is that most of us have lived a life of consistent repetition in our belief systems, in our experiences, in our reality. And the mind has very strong protection mechanisms around those stories for what were good reasons at the time. And in order to hopefully penetrate those protection mechanisms, the longer I can keep a person in a consistent state without a negative outcome, the more likely I'm going to break down those protection systems so that they can see where those stories may not be true and how they might be affecting them in negative or undesirable ways currently, and to hopefully create the space for freedom to make a choice from there. And those concepts were gleaned directly from that experience where I had the firsthand touch and connected all the emotions and the stories around them and decided to challenge my beliefs. And from there, I took myself into like this kind of like self-examination period where I started to question all of my belief systems and all of my like truths or what I considered reality. And what I found was, for me personally, like 99% of them were untrue, you know, and the 1% that was true was actually not serving me anymore. And so I kind of came to this conclusion: if I've been lying to myself my whole life, why can't I lie to myself in a good way that positively affects me? But at the very least, why can't I create some space between the belief systems that aren't actually true, to see if I can create new ones that are make me happier and healthier. And then from there, it's just been, I mean, a decade plus of refining the actual process and experience for people and seeing what worked, what moved the needle, what didn't, in order to try and help a human being as much as possible. And like that's kind of how I position myself. I don't actually see myself as a healer. I see myself as a helper. Like I play many roles, sometimes a mirror, sometimes a catalyst, sometimes a reflector. Um, but my goal going into most of these things is just to be with a person and help them as much as possible. Mm, yeah, that's kind of the story of how I got to where I am. There's a lot more detail if you want to pull out like what affected what and where I pull from, but that's the overview.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot that I'm curious about. One in particular. What are some of the different systems that that kind of are almost acting siloed off for so many people, and that you've worked to integrate?
When I'm working with somebody, I'm working on multiple levels at the same time and a lot of different systems at the same time. And so when we talk about the physical system, right? My style of approach on the physical work is trying to integrate all the approaches that affect all the systems, whether it's a lymphatic system, the musculoskeletal system, the fascial system, um, cardiovascular system. Then you start to get into things like meridians and chakras. And what I'm trying to do in each session is affect as many of those as strongly as possible, because they all kind of, what happens with the system as a whole is it starts to get more and more distorted as time goes on. And it's because the human being is such an interconnected feedback system. One thing out of balance, the system will usually try to correct itself or compensate at the very least. And so it starts to pull these other ones a little bit more out of balance in order to keep the whole organism in a state of homeostasis. And so what I found physically is that, just my personal opinion, like I kind of come with the perspective that I can't possibly know. what the one thing is that's affecting it. Like the human organism is so complex, and it's constantly like self-regulating and compensating inside itself. So my whole theory is like, since I can't definitively know, let's try to affect as many of those physiological systems as possible so that they start to all come back into like a form of homeostasis or coherence. And so that's just the physical side. And there's what I found to sometimes be more important. And this is a very nuanced concept, but usually the thing that's creating the most distortion in the physicality is usually the psychology or the subjective experience of the human, right? Because it's constantly putting these messages down into the body that the body then interprets and then goes about trying to reconfirm its reality. Just making sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so I realized that I can't just address the body and hopefully create meaningful change. I actually have to address both simultaneously, because it becomes a chicken or the egg question, right? Like, it's so hard to pinpoint, and they're feeding back into each other, that now I have to address the psychology as well, or like at the very least the thought patterns, the belief systems, and all of that. And so I started playing with both of those. And when you start to talk about that, like, everybody's work that's popularized now is something that I've studied and integrated in. And whether that's like work like Gabor Mate's or Peter Levine's, or like you go to like the mainstream psychology and like Jung's work, or who are the more influential ones? I can't really recall right now, but what I'm constantly doing is educating myself onto the new like trauma. I use a lot of trauma therapy. I pull from a lot of trauma therapy, a lot of psychedelic assisted psychotherapy, and I'm gleaning the concepts from these approaches and utilizing them where they're appropriate. Stuff like parts work, internal family systems, like I'm integrating as much of these newer kind of understandings as possible while taking the gold from the old ones to hit as many psychological layers as possible. And then what I learned from there is that the psychological and emotional systems are actually separate. They actually engage with each other and create bidirectional feedback loops, but you have to address the emotional side as well. And this leads into like the kind of like neuroscience of it all, and like the parts of the brains that actually correlate to these experiences, right? And so the prefrontal cortex has more to do with like decision making, control, language. But a lot of these experiences have been kind of created under hypercharged situations, have become emotional experiences for us. And what I found is that those kind of stories or experiences don't really respond to language or intellectualism, right? It's in a deeper part of the brain that responds to symbology or firsthand experience or emotionality or touch. And so then I started to incorporate that emotional side in as well. And then you start to bring in stuff like the nervous system. And what you start to see is a system in all its complexity speaking to each other constantly, and basically creating a feedback loop of information while trying to consistently confirm the other's reality or compensate for the reality that's being created. And so this kind of leads into why I do things the way I do in the process that you guys experienced, is because what I found at the end of the day is that to actually help somebody move the needle in a meaningful way, all of them have to be addressed simultaneously. And that's the simplest version, but I keep finding it to be true over and over again. And like, that's one thing I'm hoping you guys will share, so that I can start to elaborate on why I'm doing those things, or why that experience might have hit in that way. Because for me, there's so many layers to it that it's just so hard to fully explain, when what I find is more important and the things that we can't measure now are the things that I actually think are making the meaningful change. Like the human experience, the subjective experience, right? What is the value of being touched for hours on end? I mean, can you quantify that? Not yet, but I think it's pretty important to a human being. What's the value of being seen and actually being known and listened to, not to be fixed, but just to be honored? I mean, we don't really get that in today's society. And I think those are the things that actually end up being the more important factors of what I'm doing. All the mechanical stuff, all the psychological stuff, I had to learn to basically come back to the first principles of a human being and be able to apply techniques in an intelligent way to support that process. Is that making sense at all?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all tracking.
Yeah, and I love how you say it's the simplest way, and yet there's so much complexity in it. And so I appreciate that. And yeah, and also like, I hope, well, people will take what they want from this, but also don't get caught up in all the things that you're sharing.
Yeah.
Like it's I think fascinating to understand that. But again, like we were talking about before, don't try to figure it all out. Like that's been your work, is figuring it out for us.
So you guys can just experience it.
Yeah. Like taking that off our plate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, to your point of what is the true value in being touched, in my case, it was for 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
And to be listened to, witnessed, fully accepted, in my case, a 10-hour talk session.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
You guys went 16 hours?
16 and a half.
Damn.
Yeah.
How long was ours? Do you know?
I don't remember. Like it was around 15, I think.
Yeah. It was a minute.
Yeah. And it's like, I wouldn't have known how to answer the question previous to that.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't have a better understanding of how to answer it, except in all my life and all the amazing people I've been with that have witnessed me and accepted me, and others who have touched me. No offense to any of you who are listening today. It's just, it's not the same thing. And so, anybody that I've shared this work with, because it has been so profound for me. And one of the things I love that you share as well, and it's something that I've gotten from one of my beautiful mentors in medicine ceremonies. Sure, share the work, but don't share the gold.
Yeah.
Let it grow. Let it continue, like grow on the vine. Because that stuff is for me.
Mm-hmm.
And others will get that through my expression of it. They don't need to know the ins and outs of what I actually experienced in my subjective experience that we had together. And what I was told, and I believe, and I think you affirmed this as well, is once we say the thing, it doesn't mean we lose the goal, but we lose the growth of what that thing wants to become. And it will continue to integrate and grow and show up in new ways over months and years in ways that I can't even imagine right now, because it's been 2+ months since this experience. And someone asked me last night, like, what is the integration like? I'm like, it's not like a plant medicine ceremony integration where you're trying to figure out what the messages were and this thing and what was that being and what was this feeling. The integration for me has simply been being present to what I'm feeling that is different, getting curious about that. How does that feel? Wow, I am different. And we'll get into a lot more of this later on, but in essence, in all the work I've done, and I've done some amazing work with some amazing teachers, facilitators, mentors, nothing has transformed me, changed me from the moment I got off that table. And it is not only stuck, it's continued to grow and show up in new ways when I've had certain situations, opportunities come up for me since then, where I have shown up completely different, more in integrity of who I am and with more clarity and less distortion around any story or trying to make someone feel better, make myself feel better. I just have such a great sense of who I am. And from that, I know what is true for me. And I get to show up with that. And we'll get into some stories around that later on that I think are interesting and how that's shifted for me. But maybe we get into kind of the two parts of it. We talked about, my talk session. I don't know, how would you describe it? The talk session. I mean,
yeah, you can call it talk.
It's just, that seems kind of lame, but
conversation.
Yeah, our conversation. Mine lasted for 10 hours and people are like, what the fuck? I can't sit for an hour with my psychiatrist. I'm like, I know, neither can I. And the only time we took a break was to go to the bathroom, and my energy never wavered, not once. And I would have bet a lot of money against that if you just said that this was going to happen.
I should have made that bet.
Yeah. That's for sure. And in that, just the witnessing, and I share things that I've never shared with anyone. In that, it just speaks the impeccable space that you hold, and how you witness someone I literally just met in person that day.
Yeah.
That I had you had built that trust. That's like, again, what's the value in that? There is no, appreciable value. And for people who haven't experienced that, when you do, you'll understand that it's a fool's errand to try to place a value on that. We could put a number on it, but even that wouldn't be right. Yeah. So there's that. And then the touch piece when we got into the body work. But I'm curious to kind of hear from you, Luke. I've been hogging the mic a little bit. Like,
I'm sitting here going, okay, remember you got to ask about this. Remember, ask about this. I lost track of 50
perfect
reference points already.
Yeah, like tell us about your experience in the conversation.
Well, I think one interesting aspect of it for me, which is just helpful, and I just find so much value, is in my own discernment, and also especially in the realm of working with medicine, but also just availing myself to anyone in the healing space, and taking the time out for that. Over the years, I've noticed it's kind of like tuning an instrument. I'm becoming more tuned to be able to know when something is meant for me, right? Because there's so many opportunities in the circles we roll with, and being in Austin and having a podcast. And I could be like healing and doing all the things every day with everyone, right? A lot of invites.
And we've done that. We had those seasons.
A lot of invites come in, and I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, because I was doing some writing just about psychedelics and things like that. And I realized that, and I think this is true because I can't recall one, I don't think I've ever sought out an experience like that. It's just someone says, hey, I know this guy, they're doing this thing. And 99% of them, I just go, nah, it doesn't, there's no charm kind of leading me in that direction. So it's been really fun for me to tune my instrument so that when something is put in front of me, I know when it's a yes, right? It's so clear. I need to be there. I'm supposed to be there. And the introduction from Mark Gober in our group text about Kyle, and there's all kinds of shit. Hey, we're going to the comedy club. It's just like all kinds of things I could be doing, right? And like everyone, I'm busy.
And you're in the middle of writing a book, so you don't have a lot of time for dicking around.
It's a whole other story of insanity. But I literally saw it in the thread, and I was like, I'm in. I clicked your Instagram or website or something. I wasn't just like, I saw the name and I'm in, but I was the minute I saw it, I'm like, I'm in to look further. Right. And within 5 minutes, I was like, I'm doing this, and I had no immediate need. It wasn't like, oh, I need to work on this thing, or I'm stuck on this thing, or
same.
There's nothing, that I could pinpoint as an area of focus. And certainly at that time, was not at all kind of feeling out for a medicine experience. As I was telling you guys a little bit before recording, and I mentioned this to Kyle a number of times too. I had hit a point with that work, which started for me around in 2017. In the beginning, it was quite a few times a year. I'd have some kind of experience. Again, they would just fall in my lap, and I go, I think this is for me. And every time, it was in one way or another. But I had hit a point where I really stopped having breakthrough experiences, right? And I'm sure those experiences served me in some way that I'm just not aware of consciously. And sometimes that was the case where, I'd been struggling with something beforehand, and I went into a ceremony, let's say, and had no intention around solving that or healing it. And then a couple weeks later, I go, oh, wow, that thing's gone, So in these realms, things are often operating beneath conscious awareness, right? But I was getting to a point where I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. Like, I kind of used up all my ride tickets, I just like literally every ceremony, I'm just kind of like, why am I here? What am I doing here? This is like, nothing's happening, man. Yeah. Because the first few years, because I really was tuning into when it was a legitimate call, I was pretty, careful and discerning about that. It's like when it was, man. And I walk out a different person, and there were meaningful changes in my life. The integration was always, you got to do this, this, and this, like concrete actions to take, changes to make, people to call, amends to make, etc. That stopped happening. It was like, I felt it's like a little bit of a grieving, of a loss to that portal, just like, damn, man, I'm done. I know there's still ways I can grow and expand, but I guess I'm going to have to find slower routes to get there, meditate for another 28
Gross.
years.
Right. No offense. I'm just saying it's not as fun.
To bring it into, this moment, it's just really cool to be able to acknowledge that phenomenon, right? When consciousness just says, here, poof, I'm going to put this thing in front of you. Are you going to bite? What kind of fish are you? What kind of bait do you like? And the introduction to Kyle was one of those, and just immediately knew I needed to do it. And there's much more to say about it, but in that part, I think what's been so interesting, even being here today, is I'm remembering so many different awakenings that I had throughout that whole experience, and also things that have, as you said, persisted even afterward, that I'm not even really tracking until I stop and think like, oh yeah. And one of the things you mentioned, how you show up differently, that's been a huge change for me. And you remember this, I'm sure. Well, you work with so many people. I don't know if my story is that important at this point, but at one point and I took some mushrooms and some kanna, not a crazy dose, but enough to get some fireworks. At one point, I got my face in the massage table cradle, and I started thinking about my wife, Allison, and just how she just has such impeccable integrity, and she has no fucking tolerance for distortion at all. To the point where over the years we've been together, sometimes I'm like, she's a little harsh, man. Give people a break. And she's fuck breaks. You're in integrity or you're not. No hard feelings if you're not, but I'm not interested at all. Yeah. And I come from, addiction recovery, I'm used to being around kind of sick people, and as long as they have a willingness to evolve, I can get in the cesspool with them a bit and feel untainted, although I probably am more tainted than I think in some cases.
Your words,
but I got my face in the cradle, and it just started hitting me because there was so much work we were doing around shame and self-worth and things like that. And I remember saying, oh my God, Allison had it right. I was like, she has the right standards. I'm fucking tripping the shit I put up with. It hit me so hard. It was so obvious just how I've just, oh my God, like the mediocrity and distortion I've allowed in my life and in my field was shocking to me. There was some objectivity, witness, perspective that became available to me. And it was just so hilarious. And I actually apologized to her at the end of that session. I mean, really, I was like tearing up. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I wasn't fully appreciating this gift that you have, and that, you know, you hold that line of integrity impeccably. And yeah, I think I said something to her around like, yeah, I see why your standards are so high. And she's like, no, they're not. They're appropriate. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, that's where they're supposed to be if you value your own energy and time and, you know, yourself. So that was one of the biggest takeaways, I think, and there's so many others, but just the realization that, you know, I deserve to be around the kind of people and energy that I find fulfilling and interesting and inspiring. Right. So it's like, I think back so many times in my life at a party and I'm sitting there talking to someone for 20 minutes. And I'm just like, why the fuck did I stay there talking? I wasn't interested. You know what I mean? Or else I didn't like the vibe, but I was just compelled to, I don't know, I can't just walk away. So I'm having a much easier time just going like, cool, that's interesting. Bye. Just walk away. It's like, what do I owe them? You know, I mean, I'd never be rude or mean or anything like that. It's just, it's not even like against someone. It's just for myself.
Yeah.
Right. So that was just such a beautiful takeaway and integration tool of just refining my boundaries and my standards and what I'm willing to tolerate from anyone else, but most importantly from myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one that's allowing that distortion to enter my space. It's not them like breaking into my field.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, naive, unconscious NPC. Yeah, everyone come on in, bring all your shit. It's like, no, dude, I'm doing it to myself if there's distortion, you know? So anyway, I could go on and on about it, but what a beautiful gift to be able to walk my path with, you know. It's just like, oh man, no, the road is getting so much narrower, but that road is a road of longevity and a road of clarity. You know, it's just like, ooh, it's got to be clean. Everything's got to be clean, or I am not fucking interested.
Yep.
And I'm the one that has to be the most clean, you know? And I don't mean that in a puritanical way, just in integrity, in truth.
Yeah.
You know, if it's not love, if it's not true, I'm not interested, especially if it's coming from me, you know, because that's the radio frequency that allows others that have those distortions into my channel. It's like, if my channel's not clean, I'm going to get what I get. So having said all that, I could share about it for 6 hours or more. I could probably share about it 5 times as long as the actual experience. But maybe I could reel it in for you, Kyle, on a question. I mean, not just with my experience, I'm sure this is not unique to the session that you and I had. What's your take on that of standards, integrity, boundaries, you know, what we're willing to tolerate, what we're not, all of that stuff that was such a huge revelation for me. You know, is that something you see commonly? How does that work in your own life and your own experience?
Yeah, it is something I see commonly. I agree with most of the things you said. Like, a part of one of the layers I'm trying to work with a person is getting them back to their own truth and a clean reflection of themselves, right? There's this concept that I play with a lot, which is we go through life and we're exposed to dirty mirrors, whether it's your culture, our family, our friends, other people. And it starts to distort our own opinion of ourselves and kind of our own belief systems and our own self-value and our own self-standard. And so most times what I'm trying to do with a human being is to kind of do what you just beautifully articulated, is get them back to their self and their truth and their own standard of integrity, because that's where the psychological and emotional distortion is coming from, right? They're usually out of alignment with their self in some form or another. And you hit upon another like important ingredient, which is love. like most people I see, like if you drill down to the bottom of it, there's a lack of self-love in some area, right? And the more I can get a person to see that and to connect back with that in an empathetic way for themselves. One of my things that and this is just my own opinion, but a lot of the things we go through as human beings are symptoms, right? They're either symptoms or messages. And what I'm trying to do is help a person see what those symptoms lead back to and what the messages are actually saying. And when you actually, the most important part, in my opinion, is that what you were talking about, it's a firsthand and subjective experience. There's no amount of intellectualism. I can't sit here and give you the concepts and they'll stick. You have to feel it in the moment, and it has to hit you. And it has to be so overwhelmingly true that it just naturally sticks. And what happens from there on out usually is all the layers of bullshit start to unravel, right? And you start to see in all the areas where, like you said, you're contributing it or recreating it yourself. And that's one of the layers that I find to be super important in these sessions. And one of the things I'm trying to help a person do, you know?
It's so empowering too, in that taking ownership, responsibility for my own experience and outcomes of every decision I make too, right? I mean, being in the victim role is really satisfying to the ego, you know, it's just, you just can wallow in it, you know, but there's something so liberating about just going, cool, I created everything.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are rare exceptions in which we are victimized. You know, I was when I was a kid, I did nothing to contribute to that. But really, if I'm honest, apart from that one experience of abuse when I was really young, every other time in which I've been harmed is so easily and directly correlated to decisions I made that got me there. And those decisions were all based on distortions, beliefs that I held about myself and about the world, right?
Yep.
Every one of them.
Yeah.
Selfishness, you know, insecurities, looking for certainty, gain, you know, whatever, greedy shit, everything. And that could be depressing from one point of view, because you're like, oh my God, I suck, I'm a loser. But to me, it's like, wow, that's great news to know that I am the architect of my own suffering.
And that's another thing I'm trying to leave a person with, is empowerment. Like the whole stance I take is, the reason I don't consider myself a healer is because I think the person is their own healer. And like pushing them back into the sovereignty and the self-knowing and the empowerment, like just like you said, is the only place a person can actually stand and walk through this life and continue to maintain the things that they say they want, right? And like going back to that thing you said about victimization, there are experiences in life where we are victimized, right? But then it becomes our choice to remain a victim or not. And that distinction and that nuance is super important. And the thing I try to do as best as possible is provide the space for one to truly go into those things and allow all the threads of all the feelings of all the painful things that they've had experienced, and honor them, and actually honor them and sit with them and acknowledge them and process with them. Because what happens for most people is they'll try to make an intellectual leap. They'll try to say, okay, like I feel this way, this thing happened to me, but I can intellectually see how it'd be more beneficial to me to take this other perspective. And they try to intellectually move themselves past their experience. And that's part of the layer of what I'm doing, both psychologically during the conversation portion, but also physically, because a lot of this stuff ends up getting stored really deeply in the emotional centers and then end up in some form or another somatically storing, right? And so when one tries to make a leap towards an intellectualized jump in perspective, usually what happens is once another charged situation or very hard circumstance comes up, they usually regress. So it's not an actual true gain. You're not actually able to maintain that position. And what I found over the years is that the only thing that naturally gets you to that position is an organic movement when you're actually done with that state of being or perspective. So like until you're truly done being the victim, you probably won't be able to maintain the perspective or position that you're not a victim, right? And that was somehow can somehow be empowering, or you could turn a positive light to it. And so the sessions are so long because I'm trying to give them the space to fully inhabit all of the pain so that they can truly let go of it. And that's where a lot of the physical work comes in and helping the body process it. Because that's the thing I think a lot of interventions are not accounting for is the top down, bottom up reciprocation of experience and information. And even if you address the psychological layer, like in modern psychotherapy, sometimes the stories, the experiences, the feelings, the neurochemical cocktails they create can still reside somatically. And that can hijack you in situations and regress you to once epiphany states, right? Like, and so when you combine the two, going back to what Cal was saying, like the integration feels so much more integrated upon completion, because what I'm trying to do is create coherence between the body and the mind simultaneously. So the body is reflecting the same level of perspective that the mind got to. And so it's literally reflecting its reality back to you and reconfirming it, while simultaneously processing as much as we can out of the physicality that's creating distortion, and creating an environment where there's more love, there's more beauty, there's more optimism, there's more empowerment, there's more freedom, there's less fear. And so another thing I'm trying to do on the back end is create a neurochemical, hormonal, and neuropeptidal cocktail that creates these places that psychedelics do so beautifully for the mind in the body in a very human way that we evolved to experience, right? Touch, connection, intimacy, presence. And in that, you kind of create this soup of all these really good hormones and neurochemicals, and it then drastically affects the level of integration between the mind and the body and the deeper knowing, the deeper truth than I've seen with just singular approaches. And then that leads into like all the psychedelic work that people are doing, right? Like beautiful. Like the thing that I see most consistently, because I work with a lot of people like who have done a lot of medicine, who have done a lot of therapy, who have done the processes, who have like they're serious about the work, right? But what I see is that sometimes the body is the rate limiting factor in what they can actually integrate or maintain or actually like just keep. And so when you start to connect those two, you just get like this synergistic effect that like Cal was hitting on earlier. It's just so hard to describe, but it's a felt sense. It's a knowing that you can't intellectualize your way to. And like one of my favorite sayings for people is like, you can't think your way out of this shit. You really can't. Like, and so with that statement comes the obvious thing of like, why aren't we treating the body as much as we're treating the mind and the spirit? It's still our hardware. And I think another concept I like to play with is that the mind upgrades so quickly in the level of like intellectualism and understanding and like situational experience, but the hardware, right? Like if you try running a quantum computer in an old Mac, it isn't going to work. And so another layer of what I'm trying to do is upgrade the hardware so it can actually sustain the upgrades of the intellectual software. And so once you get those two in resonance, then it starts coming from within.
Let's do another session right now.
You are so stoked.
We'll
for it.
record the session. That'll be the rest of the podcast, right? Like,
I don't think we have enough
tape.
cards. Yeah.
SD
I'll be
card.
like doing the session talking. I'm like, this is the moment.
I pitched that to Allison on the way over. I said, hey, why don't, instead of doing the podcast, I'll ask Cal if we can just do a session and just film the whole thing and put it on the internet with you naked and all. She said no.
Yeah. Teach their own.
I did want to ask about, I know you don't serve people psychedelics, right? It's very clear in your intake forms and what's the word?
NDA?
Not an NDA, like a release.
Liability.
Liability. Yeah. It's like, hey, this is on you if you're going to do it. But, I got the idea if you want to, or maybe Mark mentioned, like, it's kind of up to the client, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm curious about is, from your perspective, working with people, what's the difference when someone does or doesn't? And also beyond that, what's the difference between what people decide to work with? I know some people might work with ketamine. I've heard maybe someone does a hit of bufo in the middle. I'm like, what? That's mind blowing. But for me, it was perfect. It was flawless. I think I would just repeat that same thing every time. But what have you seen over the years of your work around, how that impacts the sessions and what happens for people?
So that's the hard thing with my work is it's also nuanced to the individual, right? And going back to kind of like my underlying principles of, I have to always, one of the things I'm trying to do that goes back to the statement of I can't indefinitely know what's wrong with a person is this other very human principle of meeting a person where they're at, right? And so each person I have to come in fully open to where they're at and meet them there, regardless of what I think might be more beneficial or less. And so whenever I'm working with a person, that whole concept becomes clearer the more we get deeper into the conversation. And it's interesting because I have people who 90% of my sessions are done without psychedelic therapy. It's just it.
Oh, wow. So the vast majority.
Wow. And
that's funny because I remember I was like, there's no way I could hang with this if I wasn't on medicine. Because I was working with the pain so much. It was, I don't know if you remember that, but I was just like, whoa, pain, who are you? What are you? Thank you. You're cool. Let's go into the core, like into the heart of darkness of physical pain. It was really a huge part of the work. And I don't know if I could have hung in there.
And
without that.
That's again, that goes to the nuance. Like, that's why I like to really talk with people beforehand, is because like, knowing yourself, right? That becomes the distinction of whether it's appropriate and beneficial. And that's what I'm always pushing for in these sessions is one, a self-inquiry. Where do these things take you? And will they actually support the process that you want to go on? And that's my whole standard with everybody. And so what I see in that difference is there's not much difference in the experience, actually. There's just a difference in the person and what they need to reach that experience.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's an important distinction, I think, because without the level of care and attention to detail you have, I mean, as I explained, for me, like, I don't think I could do this without medicine, at least not to this depth.
Yeah.
But you could take the guy next to me and it could be the biggest nightmare of his entire life because he took the medicine.
Exactly.
And how do you deal with pain on medicine or something?
Exactly. And so that's one of my screening criteria is, does this person have an extensial history of experience with this thing they want to take? Because if they don't, I'm not letting it happen because it's too big of a risk. And there is a concept, right? Like one of my famous saying is a good thing done for a good reason doesn't always equal a good outcome. And that's the discernment in whether medicine's appropriate for the right person or not. Because if they want to shoot it on the first shot, it's their first time taking medicine with this whole other can of worms you're opening with me in my process.
Yeah, no.
Like there is a thing that can happen where it can actually switch over and become a negative experience. And that's one thing, like my whole orientation is like, I do not want to leave a person worse off than I found them. Like, please, you know what I mean? Like, let's actually go the safer route and maybe have lesser of an experience, but a positive one. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you go into like the all the the chemical cocktails I've actually worked on, and it becomes this beautiful way for a person who knows himself and knows what certain medicines do to them to then even take themselves even deeper into those processes and layer them on sometimes throughout the session to enhance or create more depth or more perspective or more meaning. And so like I've worked with a lot of different ones and a lot of different combinations of them. I've done sessions for a person on a full dose of ayahuasca.
Whoa.
While having a medicine woman singing icaros at the same time and chanting.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've done.
I felt that, by the way. I wasn't doing ayahuasca, but whatever I had, like I felt very much in an ayahuasca type experience where, and this doesn't actually happen to me, but I had different brothers that showed up and were smiling and singing. And so it was, I mean, we'll get into that later, but wow.
Well, that's another good point. Like I mentioned what I'd studied, right? But a lot of these insights, the reason I can sit with people and take them to the depths that we go to is because of my experiences on medicine. It's taught me so much more than actual physiology has on how to take a human deep into themselves and how to navigate those spaces, and then how to amplify them or how to bring them back down and soothe them. And like my experiences on ayahuasca showed me actual strokes through the anaconda wrapping around my body. And iboga taught me so much about the intellectual conversational piece and the time under tension and exposure concept, the psychology and the conversation. And when you start to blend truth with wisdom and the spirituality of ayahuasca, you start to hit on many different levels at the same time, but all important levels to hit. And so that's a part of the thing, is where I'm hopefully trying to help people go, is into these deep subjective experiences that like aren't usually accessible like in just modern everyday life. And I find that a lot of people derive a lot of meaning and value, and the meaning and value usually is so important that it has the long-term effects that you guys are talking about. And that's why I say it's so hard to quantify, but the human experience, in my opinion, trumps it all. Because I could do the same thing physiologically to you over and over again. If you don't get that experience, it's not going to translate. You know what I mean? It's not going to stick. It's just going to be like another philosophical quote you read of like, oh, I shouldn't identify with myself.
So it's another Alan Watts meme.
Yeah, you know, like.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned, you know, your experience with medicine and how that's informed your work, because I remember laying there on the table, and when those mushrooms started hitting me, you wouldn't have had to tell me that you've worked with medicine, because you became an aspect of the medicine. And I remember so clearly, and you know, these things always sound trite after the fact, but the mushrooms I took grew hands, and they were your hands. And it was so clear and so obvious to me that you were really enmeshed in the field. Yeah. Right. It's like, you weren't just like someone on the outside of my experience. It's like the way that your hands worked and the way that you were expressing through your body and the energy in the room. It was one cohesive, coherent field. It was so beautiful. And I was like, oh, this guy has worked with a lot of medicine, because there's no way he would know how to read what's happening here, because I know what's happening. I'm in the space. I'm directing where I'm going, and you know, all the things. It's like, worked with mushrooms enough times. It's like pretty good at navigating where we want to go as a team, you know? Yeah. And you were part of the team. Your hands were part of the team. It was so clear. And so, yeah, it was just so beautiful. I've never experienced anything like that. And what's cool is, you know, it's almost like an answered prayer, because there have been many times, especially, you know, deep ayahuasca experiences where, I mean, I can't really move a lot on ayahuasca because of the nausea and things like that. But there have been a few times, and even sometimes on mushrooms, where either I'm having a very deep internal experience of self-healing, where I'm, for lack of a better term, quantum sizing myself and going within my body
Yeah.
and working on different things, rearranging things, healing things in my mind, my brain, my heart.
Yep.
You know, I mean,
Yep.
I'm like, I'm doing stuff and I know it's real. I know what I'm doing. Right.
Yep.
It sounds crazy to anyone who's not had that kind of experience, but for those that had, you know what I mean? And I've had so many situations where I'm deep in medicine. I'm like, I can only do so much myself, right? I try to stretch or move a little bit.
Exactly.
I had one Wachuma journey, really, really the most potent one ever. I was doing yoga and moving. I was like, holy shit. I mean, I was moving in ways that my body normally would restrict me from doing. It's like, oh my God. And I've had this thought so many times, like, I wish there was someone who could work on me right now because I'm so limited in what I can do for myself. But I know the potential of going beyond this linear physical dimension, right? And working with energies in that way. So I think that was like one of those celebratory moments for me. I was like, finally my prayer's answered. I can go into the space. I know how to operate in this space. And now there's someone else who knows how to come into that space with me and help potentiate the work that I really want and need to do.
And that's another layer of what I'm trying to do. All those things you experience on ayahuasca, like the internal fixing of the mechanisms, I'm trying to match the hardware to the level of resonance and fixing you're doing on an energetic, spiritual level. And so that the hardware can maintain it, because we're all still human, right? We can attain these levels of spirituality and energetic perspectives, but we're still in these human bodies as long as we're here. And they're the mechanism that kind of houses and conducts all these things. And the more I can get that back into coherence with the things you're doing internally and spiritually and energetically, the whole system then comes back into coherence. And there's no leaked energy. There's no distortion. There's no, like, it all just aligns. It's all integrous. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Let's go.
And just to kind of almost piggyback what you were saying about your boundaries, and you had the kind of aha moment about Allison. I didn't necessarily have that striking a moment, but I know I've been aware for a number of years of my lack of boundaries. And Peyton has pointed it out to me in a different way, but the same message, like, why are you letting all these people into the more intimate parts of you? And what, like, and just like trying to remind, like, you're like, you know, like, I know who you are. Like, do you know who you are? And frankly, I didn't, you know? And so my prayer kind of over the past year has been to be more boundaried. And I've done some medicine work around that, and it was starting to form, but it was still very intellectual for me. I had to kind of think about it, or maybe I had a feeling, but then it was, how do I manage this? And I think this is such the beauty of the work, is that through the work that Kyle and I did, it like anchored that in as an absolute truth for me. Yeah. And from that, having a boundaried position, with that comes, I know who I am. I know when I'm in integrity. And now I really know when I'm a little bit out of integrity. And so then there's no distortion. Then it's like, before I respond, something feels off. It's like, oh, you're not being clear. You're bringing in, you're doing some of the shit you used to do, and it feels way off. And so I can only imagine, you've done so much of this work, that having that, just that singular position, everything else changes. It doesn't need to be 5, 10 different things. It's like this one thing is the anchor point that is, you know, that is guiding me. And so now, you know, I was sharing with Kyle before we got on, someone reached out, I don't know, a month or so ago, and it's someone who honestly is very transactional. They're very manipulative. They're speaking all the cool language, and they're this and they're that, and sent a voice memo
Dude, you're not going to share the voice memo I sent you.
Present company excluded.
Let's keep that private.
And it was like this whole thing. I could finally feel it in the tone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, and so my immediate reaction, I was sharing this with Kyle, previously when I would feel that, I would start to feel like, oh fuck, like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, how do I show up and be a good friend, to be a good guy, or, all this. And when I heard the fucking first sentence, and Peyton was there when I was listening, my first reaction was like, fuck off. Like, fuck you. I'm done with this bullshit with you and everybody else that I absolutely have allowed.
Yep.
This is not about you. It's not about anybody else. I invited all this in. Why? So that I could get to this point, because I had this lived experience, which was fucking torture, my own doing, because I didn't have boundaries, because I didn't know who I was, yada, yada, yada. And I just listened, it was like, fucking A, like, it was just so classic textbook bullshit manipulation. And, I shared with Peyton, I said, look, it's not like fuck you to fuck him, but it's like, I needed to overcompensate and say, fuck you, you're not coming in. My boundary, right? And it's strong. And then I could fucking take it in and breathe and like, what's an appropriate response? And the appropriate response is clear, not available, boom, wish, hope you have a great birthday.
Can I share two things?
Yeah.
One is that just came to me, which I think is a cool way to frame this kind of boundary principle, is the other person isn't wrong. They're just not right for me, right?
That's
like,
right.
It's not about like, oh, I'm cool, you're not cool. It's just like, you're perfect.
Yes.
And exactly who you should be, and exactly how God made you. And you can't actually be different than you are, or you would be, just like me. I can't be other than what I am and who I am, right? That's part one. But the thing I really wanted to share with you is it's so interesting that you're like myself, kind of in this process of just, learning your boundaries and what you're interested in and not, and what you have time for and not. And that, so someone listening could think like, oh, so you're becoming like more closed off. As you were talking, I realized that, and I've thought about this before and even talked to Allison about it, over the years that I've known you, the first couple years, and we would even talk about this, like, I can't really get through to Cal. He's very like guarded, you're always cool and like never a dick or anything like that, but just couldn't really see your heart, or like there was no intimacy available there as a friend, so just like, cool. Kyle's like one of the bros, totally cool guy, but just there was this insulation kind of thing. And it's so funny that paradoxically, as you've become more firm with your boundaries, as you're explaining, I've experienced you as the exact opposite. Like over the past couple years, like you've just become totally open and receptive and vulnerable, and the opposite of boundaried with me. Maybe that's just because I'm awesome, and maybe you've pushed other people out. And when actually Luke's cool, I'm going to open the kimono a little bit here, But it's just an interesting observation, And I've talked to Allison about that too. I said, I really dig Cal. I think he's like one of my best friends now. We just have such a great, mutually supportive, humble kind of bond. There's no weird competition, or like, I don't want anything from you. I don't need anything from you. You don't want anything or need anything from me. There's an equality to the relationship that allows for it to flourish.
Yeah, I think, and I love that you brought that up, because it is counterintuitive to what you would think. And what has come online for me is that discernment. And I think along with that is trust. Can I trust you, fill in the blank, with things that are intimate, that are sacred to me? And if the answer is yes, then we have a relationship like we have, because I trust you. I know I can trust you. Not that I was testing you on purpose, but I know who you are. I know how you trust me. And what I realized that there were people, and still are people in my field that never earned that trust. There's nothing wrong with them. We're just operating at different resonance. Mine's not better. Mine's mine. And so I'm glad you brought up the first part too, because it's not like there's something wrong with that other person. We're just not resonating, you know, and we may have resonated 6 months ago. We're just not now. We may in 3 months. I don't know. I wouldn't bet on it.
And next year, you and I might resonate less.
Right.
Because we go different directions. It's like two ships on a sea. You're kind of going in the same direction, taking your own path. And one could be like, I'm going this way. I'm headed west, you know? And then it's like, you're out of alignment.
And I think
that doesn't mean one's going the right way and one's going the wrong way. You're just going a different way.
Great thing to point out. It's like, who am I now in this moment? What is resonant to me? What am I vibing with? And just because I was vibing with someone 6 months ago doesn't mean we're vibing right now when I get honest about who I am and what I'm receiving from the other person. And that's another thing where you may have old friends that you went to college with, or you've been doing, like, you're just on different paths. You don't have to continue.
Or old friends you went to jail with.
Or friends you went to jail with.
Depending on how you roll.
You know, but I think it's like just being honest with yourself. And I think, again, for me, the more I've gotten to know the innermost parts of me and who I am, I can be honest in a very loving way, but not necessarily disclosing, but have the boundary. And if I get pushed and pushed and pushed, then you'll get something you're not maybe ready to hear, but I'll go there now when I wouldn't have in the past.
Yeah.
And so
that's inspiring because I'm just like unread.
And that's,
I haven't grown into being really comfortable with confrontation quite yet. You know, so I'm just like,
but you also got to understand that I had deep practice in that, playing hockey all my life and then spending 18 years in the trading pit. It's fucking confrontation city.
Yeah.
And so for the last 13 years, what have I done? I've tucked that away. And now I actually have it as a useful tool only when absolutely fucking necessary. It's like the warrior, right? You probably know more about it than I do, but it's like, I'll fucking use it. I don't want to. And it'll take a lot, believe me, because I've had to use it recently. And I got pushed to a limit where the boundary continued to be crossed. And it's like, okay, motherfucker, here's the fucking truth. You can fuck off. And these are the reasons why. Take it or leave it. I don't fucking care.
It's kind of like being a martial arts expert who's like Jesse Elder. Like, you'd never guess this guy could kill you in 2 seconds with his bare hands. He doesn't get in fights, but if he needed to, he would win.
Yeah.
You know.
And frankly, there are, like Greg in our men's group, he's the only one in the men's group who knows that side of me because he and I used to trade together. And again, it's probably on some level surprising to hear. I mean, you've probably heard me get heated before, but people in Austin don't know that side of me for a reason. I didn't know how to harness it in a way for clarity and for good. I feel like now, particularly maybe solely from the work that we did together, I know how to be a good steward of that and to use it when only necessary. And it may hurt some feelings because people have never had someone be that fucking clear with them, because most people, we deal with each other's bullshit, even when it's annoying, even when it's like a triggering and you just want to be like, what do you even, you're not saying anything. You're saying a bunch of words. They're fancy, but it's nothing. And so it's taken me a long time, 13 years, 8+ years of real work, not even thinking that I would ever use it again. That was like an old version of me. No, that was deep practice. And now when I feel like I can be in integrity with it, I can use it now. And so it's been,
Respect.
it can be a useful tool.
Hey, Kyle, when it comes to, our capacity for trust and discernment, how much of that has to do with the degree to which we trust ourselves
I think the majority.
to be able to have the discernment and rely on it?
I think the majority of it. Yeah. And that's part of the thing I'm trying to take a person into the session as well. When you get clear on your orientation and who you are, a lot of the charges around a lot of these things and their stories tend to fade. And like a saying of mine or a belief of mine is like, I don't really care what you do. I care why you do it. Because the why is the important part. The why is either out of integrity and unhealthy, or it's actually in integrity and aligned, but may not look societally or interpersonally like better or nice, right? And so that very distinction is the thing I'm trying to help a person drill down into. Ultimately, I'm trying to bring a person back to themselves, right? When there's a you in there that got distorted by all this life, right? And once you touch that again, and going back to how Cal started that last piece of the conversation, is a lot of the reason I'm keeping somebody in there so long is because once you touch that again, you're not going to want to let it go. Like once you reconnect to yourself and your truth and your form of integrity and your expression and your authenticity, you become confident in its expression and you will never go off course again. Or if you do, you feel it exponentially, like he said, and you want to go back. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the talk portion. I'm sure I'm not alone in seeing some benefit, but ultimately finding futility in talk therapy modalities. I think when I was a teenager and I was, a very troubled kid, it was really supportive being group therapy and talk about all your secrets and be seen and all that, right? But at a certain point, to what you said earlier, of just there's things that are stuck in your body that you're not going to get out talking about it, and things that are stuck in the subconscious that you couldn't even talk about because you don't even know they're there. You know what I mean? But what was really interesting about the talk with you, and I was very open to the idea, but I wasn't super excited. I was like, well, yeah, okay. If this is part of his process, I'm willing to totally go there. But I'm like, let's get on the table. You know what I mean?
It's so funny because everybody is the same way. They're like, what is this talk thing? Like, no, I've done it, bro. Like,
But what was really interesting, I mean, there's so much, but to try to, make it as concise as I can, a couple things. One was, we're essentially talking about my life story, right? Just pivotal moments, big turning points and things like that might be meaningful. And one thing that stood out to me immediately was you're not even really looking in my eyes or at my face the whole time I'm talking. Much of the time you're like tracking what I'm doing with my hands. And then I started to get self-conscious going like, bite my nail or something. I'm like, fuck, he saw me. He knows I'm neurotic. Shit. But it was interesting to watch you track body language. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Once I stopped being conscious of it, I was like, okay, I'm just going to try to be natural. But another thing that was really cool and interesting for me was I'd be talking about, one of my beliefs or an experience I had, and I would just kind of steamroll through it and keep going. You'd be like, rewind the tape, repeat what you just said. I'm like, I know what I just said, the thing, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, okay, let's look at that. And just in that moment, only because you stopped me. And this is, something that happens in therapy too, right? I mean, someone can objectively hear something behind your words that is meaningful, and you might not know that. There were so many points where I was like, oh my God, I believe that.
Yeah.
Like I remember one I was talking about my career and just, I want to do bigger things or different things. I want to go to Costa Rica and just have a farm. Like, I don't want to do a podcast for 50 fucking years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, why aren't you doing that? And I go, who's gonna like trust me to do that? Or something like that, a very like low self-worth kind of position. And you were just like, whoa, what did you just say? And when I heard myself say it again, I was like, oh my God, I've made no progress in 30 years. If that's still the underlying core belief. And I don't know that I have that. And that's what's, either motivating certain decisions or keeping me from taking actions on ones that I really want to. Huge. But what was most interesting was that because you double clicked on so many of those important ideas or beliefs, that even without me really putting any effort to do so, that was the entire journey. That I had the content for it, right? It's like I had like I'm just in the process of writing a book, as you know, and you write a book outline, right? And then you kind of know what each chapter is going to be about. So I went through every chapter of my life and I had an outline, I had a template. And when I was on the table, it was just, that's what was top of mind. That's what was in my awareness. And so without even setting any kind of specific intention to work on those things, those are the things I worked on. Very specifically and almost in the same order, which was so amazing. It was so much different than, I'm going to go sit in a ceremony and I set an intention, which I do, but it's just like, oh yeah, like my knee kind of hurts. Maybe I could work on, whatever.
I dislike that part of
the same,
ceremony,
or
the intention.
I don't know. It's like, yeah, I always do have an intention, but then I always walk out and 50 other things happen that, on the surface had nothing to do with my original intention. So I've learned to hold them loosely, right? So here, I don't really set an intention. I just start working with the construct that we created through those hours and hours of talk. And it's just like, we could do this forever. There's a lot to work with here. There's a lot of grist for the mill, a lot of raw material, a lot of clay, a lot of paint. It's like, what are we creating here? What kind of art are we going to make out of this psycho-spiritual, somatic experience? Fucking unreal.
Yeah, along those same lines, I mean, I had my own experience very similar. And I remember one part in particular, we were talking about my childhood and who I was as a kid. And I might have said 5 or 6 different things, and they were all me being like a bad kid. Just all the trouble I was getting. I was a bully. I did this. And it was just like, holy fuck. Like, where are the good parts? And then I started to come up with like, actually, what was some of the good stuff I did? And it was like, holy shit. And then through the unpacking of all the subjective stories, right? And this is what I'm curious to get into as well is, you kind of winnow it down to a few threads, and those threads inform basically every part of our life today. And from there, we get really clear on what the North Star is, or in my case, there were 2 North Stars. And then, not to spoil the ending, but, one was connection, one was freedom. And connection, I was already pretty close with it. Now, coming in with the boundaries, that connection just went exponential. Amazing. That's what I'm seeking. But freedom for me was always based around my ability to kind of do what I want, right? The mechanism for that was wealth, money, being able to do that. And what became so fucking clear in a way that had I not done the body work, right? And obviously we would argue that it wouldn't necessarily stick, but the awareness that I had for the first time in my life that all this wealth building was doing was actually putting me into a prison. And when I just completely reoriented to what resources we had and how I was allocating them for whatever I thought the greatest benefit was, it was completely antithetical to what freedom actually meant.
Wow.
And so now,
that's a really good one for people who think money's going to solve their problems.
Oh my gosh, it was a complete prison for me. And I've been in this 3-year initiation around money that has been some of the most challenging shit that I've had to deal with. And I've known it's an absolute gift because I didn't have there was something wrong with it. There was some distortion in how I was orienting towards wealth building or whatever, but it just came out of left field for actually what not even action steps, but just my perspective on it. And then my previous action steps in other ways made no sense. And so I got like a clean slate and I started to make decisions that weren't decisions I would have made previously, that weren't getting the most out of this investment or doing that. It was, what is going to create the most freedom for me? And it was like, sell that at a discount. Sell that at a discount. Now
Like
I'm
not fiscally logical decisions.
No.
Yeah.
And it was
That's
like,
funny because I emailed Kyle a couple of days ago. People
Yeah.
send me investment opportunities all the time, and I never have any money. So, who has money that might like this? I send it to me, emails back. Thanks for sending this, Luke. I'm unloading all my shit. I'm not picking up stuff, basically, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, respect. That's cool.
yeah.
Good position to be in.
Yeah. But I'd love to just kind of hear a little bit about that process. How, the person you're sitting with is giving you their subjective experience, and you're guiding a little bit, but yeah, that was one of the most fascinating things, how he's just tracking all the body language. And for me, it was fucking 10 hours.
Crazy.
And it's like, holy shit. Like, and I know he's hearing every fucking thing I'm saying. It was wild. But just that talk session, what it did for me in just changing my worldview and seeing how I was doing the opposite of creating freedom, was fascinating. And yeah, I obviously wouldn't want to skip the bodywork session, but I'm curious about what kind of generally what that process is like from your point of view.
Exploration. I have to enter into it clean with no agenda. Like going back to what I think you were saying, the psychological content ends up providing the set and setting for the actual physical experience. And what I'm trying to do is bring everything to the surface so that it's more easily accessible through the physical portion of it. But going back to what you're saying is like, the process for me, one hope I hope to give people is a situation or an experience of ultimate safety, ultimate vulnerability that has no time limit. Because this is the thing that really allows people to go into the actual detail and the nuance and the depth necessary to then actually hear themselves like you guys did, right? It's very rare. Like, I don't come with the orientation of psychoanalyzing or fixing or trying to install philosophy programs, right? It's allowing the person to share their whole life story, everything they've been through, how it shaped them, how it made them think, how it made them feel, what those stories then created in their life, and how it's still affecting them in what ways. I haven't found a simpler way to do that other than giving a person an unlimited time format and ultimate presence and ultimate acceptance. And in those two things are the unquantifiable things, right? Like, what does it do to a person when they're sat in front of and listened to without any judgment and without the need to fix, and they're just allowed to share everything that's ever happened to them, and then catch what they say and realize it's so interesting on my side because I'm watching you guys fix yourself. I'm just watching it. And it goes back to my belief is you're a self-healing organism. You know your truths. They're down there. They're just distorted by all this intellectual noise. And what most people don't understand is they think they can intellectualize their way past it. But the complexity of it and the actual severity of all the information is so important that your mind won't let you let go of it. And so what the talking becomes is almost like a purgative in the way you're purging out these stories and simultaneously hearing yourself out loud, reanalyzing them, reorienting to them, and deciding in real time of, oh shit, like this is fundamental to my belief system and my experience, right? And so my my side, my orientation is to provide as much space and encouragement and exploration. So when I double click on things, it's with the intention of exploring, right? I'll very rarely guide a person into like what they should think or how they should rewrite it. I'll just question. And in that questioning, they get the refinement in and of itself and the provocation to be like, oh, now I can pull that apart and another layer from a third person perspective. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so
it's like, okay, take our psychological framework as a folder in your computer.
Yeah.
And then from the time you were born till this moment right now, when we're having the session, there are subfolders.
Yep.
Right. And then you click on each folder and there are a number of documents in each folder.
Yep.
And within those documents, there are paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
Within the paragraphs, there are sentences.
Mm-hmm.
Within the sentences, there are words and so on. Right.
Yep.
And so the double clicking is to like go deeper into each of those documents.
Yep.
Is that kind of track?
Yeah. Tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Another like analogy would be like codes in computer systems, right? Like if one of those codes are off, the whole thing starts to malfunction.
Mm-hmm.
But to just assume you can grab a code and like change it from the top layer, like you usually have to go through and look at all the codes to see where the error was made, you know? And it's usually pretty deep. And that's the thing that modern formats don't like account for, is like when you put a time limit on these things, especially such a short duration, they're usually dealing with top of mind content, right? Like it's the current complexities of life and how they're showing up. And don't get me wrong, you can get pretty deep, but to have an uninterrupted format to go through it all, like truly all of it, like what does that do? I haven't been able to quantify it, but what I see is experiences like yours on the back end. It's like so many people come at me and they're like, I don't want to do the talk part. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to force you to, but you won't even understand the value of it. Like there's no way I could have convinced you guys of how valuable that portion would be on the back end. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that it's a pure exploration into a person's actual human experience. And I think that orientation is the thing that creates the things that you listed earlier in the experience of trust and the willingness to open up and the vulnerability and the honesty. And yeah. And so that's what it's like on my side. It's like just this pure exploration with a person. Just like when I say it, I tried to create the ultimate human experience. That's what I'm trying to do. Like the levels I'm trying to hit aren't these scientific levels. It's these really old systems of like being with another person and just fucking listening, you know?
Dude, I don't think I've ever had the experience of unlimited time.
Yeah.
You know, within the context, I mean, obviously you hang out with your wife, whatever, you have unlimited time together, you do whatever you want. But I mean, in terms of like,
intentional,
not to minimize it, but say in a transactional sort of thing, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm going to meet with this person and we're going to do X, Y, and Z thing, whatever it is. There's always time.
Mm-hmm.
And even though you explained to me that we're not playing in the realm of time here, it goes until it needs to go, right? I know that. There were so many points during the talking and a couple times even when we were in the bodywork part where I was like, oh, he's probably getting bored or I should wrap this up. Like editing.
I warned people too beforehand.
Policing myself and I would catch myself. No, he said you could keep going. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, dude, it's been 5 hours. Like his hands must be tired. I mean, maybe he needs a break. I kind of had to battle with that a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's so telling that is a battle.
Yep.
It shows how rare that experience is in the way we've organized ourselves as a civilization, that like you don't get that.
Yeah.
And that's something I really enjoyed, even though it was, I met a little resistance around it. As someone who very much resent might be a strong word, but probably honest. I resent the construct of time in the Matrix because it's just it's always been frustrating to me since I think I knew what time was. I'm just like, I fucking hate this. I'm not meeting you at 4. Like, let's meet, like later. Even coming here today, I think I was actually on time, but I was just like, oh God, why do I have to go places at a time?
Yeah.
I'll go when I feel like it. It's just like, I just live in a very spontaneous kind of way, but most of the world doesn't. Everything's run by clocks. And once I realized that if the sun stayed in one place, time would be impossible. You know, when I look past that, I was like, oh, so it's only because I'm observing the movement of the sun that I play along with this time game. And that's why it pisses me off, because even with the sun moving, you still don't have to play along with the game.
Yep.
Right. So just like, God, everything is organized around this time, and it's just so structured and annoying and confining. So,
and it's preventative.
Yeah. So
especially for this work,
that part of your experience, I was like, oh, cool. I hate time. So this is going to be perfect. Yet still was met with like, well, I mean, I know he said that, but.
So that's a good point.
So beautiful just to be able to receive that gift of someone's full presence. And then one last thing I want to sneak in here is, are you you got a lady in your life right now?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to tell you, your ability to listen is a fucking superpower. You make whoever, I'm assuming you like women. We haven't talked about that, but probably do. You're going to make a woman, when you align with the right one, very happy.
Oh,
because I found that is, the most, I don't know, I think the biggest gift that I'm able to offer my wife is to really be present and totally accepting and unconditionally loving. And however long she needs to talk is however long I'm going to sit here and breathe and listen.
Beautiful.
Right. And it's just like, wow, that's kind of most of what my expression of love is.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, I'm putting everything down and my phone's not on. I'm like, I'm hear you. I'm not going to try to solve your problems.
Yep.
I'm not analyzing you.
Yep.
I'm literally just like an open, like I'm like a sieve. Everything you say just runs through me. And my job is just to sit and just love you being who you are. It's been such a powerful practice and just something that I can keep getting better and better at, so.
There's so many things to double click on in there. Like, okay, so the concept of the timeless format and you struggling at some points, even though you don't agree with the time. Like, a part of the reason I created this process the way I did and refined it to be the way it is because what I found is that if there's any distortion in your value, self-worth, self-identity, right? There's usually kind of a lack of self-love or self-worth somewhere along the lines. And you can't intellectualize your way to that. Those are gained through real life experience. And so the only thing that's going to actually heal those wounds is real life experience in the opposite direction. And so when I sit with a person that long, it's actually a gift to yourself. And that's what I'm hoping to create. You're giving yourself the gift to receive long enough to remember and to experientially reinforce that you're worthy, that you're lovable, that all these things, like kind of like what you're doing with your wife, right? And so then the touch portion, I've never found anything more impactful than allowing yourself to receive loving touch, present touch, in restoring yourself to yourself in the way of remembering who you are, your self-worth, but also to demonstrate an act of self-love that actually takes you back there without having to intellectualize it. It's an actual demonstration to be touched by another human and to allow yourself to be touched and to be cared for at that level brings you so deeply back into your self-worth. Going back to what Kyle said, you'd never want to deviate again because you felt it. And it's a remembrance. And now it's integrated physically so that it comes upstream into the intellectual process and you don't question it anymore because you felt it for long enough.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so like when I say I'm working on a lot of layers at once, I'm truly like trying to hit as many of a person's human needs and biological needs as possible simultaneously, because it all does work on the back end that they won't be able to comprehend until they have that shift and they're experientially living it. And they're like, just like Cal said, you're like, I'm different and I respond differently and I orient differently,
Well, that was another thing I think in the touch portion of it too is, so how do I articulate this? It's like there was a level of care and love with which you worked that I could feel that was authentic. But there were also times where my mind was like, this guy doesn't even know me. I don't even know this guy. So how is he accessing this real love, like this kind of affection, right? Because there's points when like the music slows down, for those that haven't done it, there's, intensity followed by more gentle kind of, there's a lot of waves of,
Yeah.
the energy really fluctuates a lot, right? And there were some times where he was just like holding me and caressing me and stuff. And like a father would to a little boy or something,
Yep.
right? And it's like, I go, oh, this feels really good. And then I think like, I mean, is this good for him? You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's really hard to articulate. It was like, yeah, it was so foreign to be loved by, especially by a man like that. Like I know when my wife loves me like that, I don't question it or go, oh, is she getting bored? Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, of course we love each other. It's overt and just implicit in our relationship. But yeah, with you, I was like, I don't really like this, but how could he be this loving toward me when we don't yet know one another?
Yes.
You get where I'm going with this?
Yeah. Your capacity for love, then I had similar thoughts like, fuck, I mean, this going for, I love it, but is he, cause I go do any of my experiences, which the massage ends maybe at 90 minutes, but it's like, and even by then I'm fucking done. But this was like more.
That,
like,
okay, double click on that.
And also one last thing. It's like, I just realized it's kind of a thread of codependency, right? Where like, I'm wondering if you're okay.
Yeah.
And you're getting what you need.
So all this is meant to,
it's like self-abandonment.
All this is meant to show you in that how much you've oriented past yourself and you can't just receive because there's something still in you that thinks I'm not worthy of all of this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing I'm trying to break in those sessions by continuously giving and giving and giving and
How
loving.
do you do it, bro?
How do I do it? I can't answer that question. Like I'm just built for this. Like in the way you guys do what you do.
Yeah.
How do you answer that? I don't know. It's my it's my disposition. There's so many factors that contribute, but it is coming from a place of love. That's why I have so much energy to do it.
Right.
It couldn't come from anything else.
Right.
It couldn't. Like I couldn't go those hours. I couldn't stay that focused. I couldn't give that much actual energy and the care if it wasn't coming from a place of love. And so going back to what you just said, like, right? Like the more I can fill up a person's cup, like this is another thing I'm trying to do on the back end, like going into like your whole piece with your wife and how you can be with your wife. One of my hopes is to fill a person with so much love and so much care that their cup is filled and it's fucking overflowing again. And it just pours out and affects the people they love, And like, fuck it if I have to work an extra 6 hours to give a person that. Gladly, deeply, like gratefully. Like I would love to just fill your cup up so much that everybody in your life is impacted in a positive way so that you get back to a place of realizing, oh shit, I've been running on a fucking 10th of the amount of self-worth and self-love. And this made me fucking realize it. Right. And so I'm trying to work all those layers subconsciously. And those layers can only be worked subconsciously through a firsthand experience. But if I demonstrate the physical action to you, your body has no choice but to accept it. Accept it deeply, right? And knowingly. And it restores a level of that knowing. And that's why I think the integration piece comes so naturally. Is this all making sense?
100%. I love it. I could do this shit forever.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Well, I'll just add this.
Yeah.
Our friend, I don't think he would mind me saying his name, but Chase, who had more recent experience, was sharing that I think they were about 4 to 4.5 hours in. He had to go to the bathroom. This is into the touch session. He comes back. He's like, okay, we're kind of ready for the second part. And Kyle looks at me and goes, we're not even halfway. I think they went 10 hours. Touch.
Whoa.
And that's like,
wow.
That's the level of care.
Even hearing that, I'd be like, I feel bad. I feel bad for Kyle. Still.
Like I've had to like I could like I don't know if you remember this, but I told you beforehand there's gonna be a level of resistance to how much you're gonna receive. You're gonna start to like want to offer me shit or try to like be like, are you okay? Do you need anything? And like my whole point is to give a person a whole day of receiving with no construct of reciprocity. Yeah.
It was interesting with the timing of the body work. As I said, I met resistance a few times of just worrying about you and whatever, but I didn't want it to stop. But it was interesting. I don't know, just the particular medicine combo that I was working with. It came on the second I laid on the table. And then there was a point at which I think I got up to drink some water. You went to the bathroom or something. And I got up and I was like, I'm actually pretty sober. Like not drive a car sober, but I was the depth of the experience just like ended within, I don't know, a 15-minute period or something. And that's how I knew it was the end, right? I thought, I feel complete.
Yeah.
It would have felt forced to be like, well, he said we could keep going. So like, let's go. It's like the medicine really, it created bookends on that portion of the experience where it was very clear to me, like when the beginning was and when the end was. But I think had I had the idea like, well, this could wear off soon, I'll take some more medicine, I could have gone longer too. It was very much dictated by the experience that I was having. So and note next time, halfway through, take a couple more grams.
So that's the one thing I always tell people too, like, because I guess we're sharing this in the way that like it doesn't have to be the format that you guys experience. I tell everybody like your journey is your journey. And like, it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be a certain thing. Like I've had people where I sit down and have a conversation with them for 10 hours and they're so rocked that they can't even do the bodywork part. And we just call it at that. Because there's this very real line you have to navigate of pushing a person too far. Going back to that concept, like a good thing done for a good reason doesn't always equal a good outcome, right? And so each person gets to call theirs. And that's what I'm trying to do on the back end too, is push them deeper into their intuition, their own healer, right? Their own sovereignty of like, I'm done. That was the mark for me. I don't need anything more.
You're not trying to create a dependency.
Also, that's one of my orienting positions is like, I try to put a lot of energy into not creating codependence and creating sovereignty within a person. And that's another reason for those conversations is I want to instill in you the tools so you can walk through life on your own, and maintain these things.
Yeah. Like we get in the talk session, we get the threads, we get the stories, then the threads, how it impacts, we kind of see the whole field.
Yeah.
Walk away with the North Star. And then I remember we talked about this afterwards, but I'd asked you, I said, so is there a regular cadence? Is it once a quarter, whatever? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said when you feel like you're really just fucking stuck again and you just can't get it moving, there's probably a time to do another session, but it could be 5 years from now.
And that's my way of trying to prevent the codependency, but also pushing you to sovereignty, to a position of self-empowerment. Like I think this is just my personal opinion and there's so much nuance. So I hope somebody doesn't take this out of context, but I believe it's best for a person to get as far as they can possibly go on their own. And that's when I like to come in. Right. And so like what I try to push people that I've worked with before on is like, if they're starting to hit the resistance of life again, stay with it until you're absolutely stuck. Because being stuck doesn't actually help you. But working along the way towards growing does. Those are those measures that you talked about like earlier in the conversation. But like the like when you talked about your experience with hockey and it building that external like boundary system, you had the tools because you went through that experience. Now you get to discern how to use them on the back end with integrity, right? What working towards trying to work this through yourself does is it builds this internal level of capability and resistance and resilience, And then when you hit that point where you're just like looping or you can't actually break yourself out, I'll be more than happy to come and see if I can help. But there'll always be a conversation before to make sure that you've done all that you can do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I immediately afterward was like, I need to do this quarterly.
Oh yeah.
Let's
I'm like, yeah, this is a great idea, but I think Kyle's going to disagree.
Yeah, like let's just book this out now, dude. I'm ready to go tomorrow.
Yeah.
I also remember a funny, just I don't know, when you're in the medicine space, like just funny ideas come and the self editor is gone, and so you just say whatever you thought. So there's so many things like that I said, but I remember at one point I just started laughing because the hilarity to me was, how had I lived 55 years without this experience, and how fucked I would have been if I missed it. And then the second one was, oh my God, there are billions of people walking around this planet that have never had this experience and never will.
Yeah.
How is that even possible? It was inconceivable to me that you could be walking around and you didn't have access to this, right? Yeah. And then I think on the heels of those two, little inside jokes I was having within myself, I turned to you and I said, Kyle, you got to raise your prices, man.
They're told the same thing.
I mean, I mean, I understand there's, obviously you want to make healing accessible to all people, right? And I'm sure there's ways to do that through scholarships or whatever, right? I'm not your business manager, but I was just like, man, there's the monetary exchange is a bit out of alignment with the value.
Thank you for saying that.
I mean,
I really appreciate that.
I mean, you can't even put a monetary value on it, to be honest. It lives outside of the realm of that kind of, I don't know, the energy of money to me even, right? It's like, how do you can't really quantify or equate what you're doing to money. But I did have like a very serious realization. I was like, I got to tell him, should I say it? I'm like, say it. This is way too cheap. I mean, it's not cheap for most people, it's a couple of grand or whatever it was. But it was a very, very clear moment. It was more for me than like, you need to raise your prices. It was more like born out of the realization that I don't care what this costs, I would find a way to do this.
Yeah.
Right? Like if next time you were like, yeah, I took your advice, it's 50X, I'd be like, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll take a HELOC. We got to do this shit again.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So you don't know how much that means to me.
I mean, it's just the truth, dude.
That's another thing. And like, I think Kyle said it after the session is like, you can't quantify this to somebody who hasn't experienced it. Like they won't see the value, right? And that's the thing that people run up against. And I'm so thankful for you having me on the show today, is because until people can actually hear what it is, they categorize it as just either like a massage or like some guy talking to you. And it's hard for them to value that.
Yeah, and I will say this, and you talked about it earlier when you saw it come through on the text thread, and then you clicked on Instagram and his website, and I mean, I did the same thing. Instagram was harder to find, but I clicked on the website, and then there was like a PDF, and I just started to read it, and it was just like such deep, like this was like nothing I've ever read. It's like this guy, without knowing anything about it, right? Because you can't. If you look at the website, you still don't know what it is, but it's like, I've never heard anyone talk. It was like such a like impeccable frequency now after doing the work of like, and like you, I was not in fix it mode. I've done years of that. I'm like I'm good. Not like I'm fixed. It's not like I'm done with anything, but I'm like, I was in a season of just like, fucking life is good. And I saw that and I'm like, I can't not do that. If it was an ayahuasca ceremony or anything else, it would have been like, fuck no. Like anything else was a fuck no. Like I'm good. I saw that and I'm like, holy, who is this fucking guy?
Yeah.
And then,
Same, yeah.
Then that.
Yeah.
So obviously this will help, right? We get to share our experiences. You get to go much deeper into it. This is exactly why I wanted to do it. And when people go to your website and if they get the PDF, if it doesn't like resonate deeply, it's just not for you right now. But if you read it and you're just like, you don't even know what the words are, but it's just like, holy fuck, reach out.
Yeah, that's what it was for me. It's just just an energy.
It's a resonance.
I didn't read that deeply into it. I was like, this looks clean, clean. That's just your branding, your site, the photography, the messaging. It's
no fancy fucking words that everybody uses.
It's concise too. It's just like, whoosh, here's the lane I'm in. It's your lane or it's not. And I was like, I like this lane. But I would be remiss if I didn't touch on something really big. Are we okay on time?
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah.
I know you can hang. He's like, you guys are only doing a 4-hour podcast? Jeez. No, it's this, I was thinking, as I've tried to explain your work to people, and I think it really is one of those things you just got to experience it. And if you feel called, you do it. And if you don't, you don't. But if I had to summarize it from 30,000 feet.
Please, I'd love.
To me, it's all about self-love.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Yep.
And the place to which I've arrived in my life and the work I do and everything that is me, I think that's really almost all that matters.
Yeah.
I really think that is the center point, the cornerstone, the foundation, however you want to metaphor it. It's kind of like without that, you're going to be limited.
Yeah.
You can achieve things, you can be successful, you can probably be pretty happy and have a good life. But to get where I want to go and where I am to a degree, without that, it's just, it's kind of a house of cards, And so I think that to me is the overarching principle of your work as I've experienced it, which sounds really nice and like, oh, cool. Yeah, I want to self-love. Yeah, try doing it when you have X amount of years of trauma, addiction, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the biggest breakthroughs for me working with you is, really zeroing in on that self-love and seeing how it was lacking much more than I would believe or would have ever thought. Because I think, man, I'm pretty cool. I like myself. Not really, if I'm really honest.
Yeah.
Not really. And maybe more than I used to, but not as much as I could. And I feel as much as needed to be the man that I want to be and live the life I want to live. So it's like, okay, cool. If I see that's the pinnacle of the whole game, because I've learned how to love everyone else unconditionally, which took a very long time and a lot of work and a lot of surrender. But I really do love even the most evil motherfuckers on the planet. I don't agree with them. I wouldn't hang out with them. I wouldn't even mind seeing them meet justice, maybe even capital punishment in some cases. But I don't think they're wrong for being who they are because they can only be who they are. We're in a duality system, right? There's going to be bad guys and good guys always until we're in a different realm that is non-dual. So I can love God and forgive everyone. But when it comes back to myself, there's a real governor on my capacity. And that bothers me, and it should. So if I know that, well, why am I not doing that to the greatest capacity possible? And it's the goddamn shame, dude. It's the shame. So it's like, again, zooming out on your work, it's like, okay, self-love is the thing we need more of. Why don't we have it? Shame blocks it. That's, for me in my life, that is the number one distortion. That there's something undeserving or unlovable or just fundamentally flawed about who and what I am that does not deserve that self-referential, true embodiment of self-love. And that's exciting to me because, to be honest, there's points in my life where I feel like I'm good here, I did the thing. I learned how to love. If that's what we're here to do, I'm done. Got it. There's no one or nothing that I don't love. And I've felt like that. Like, cool. Yeah, I probably won't need to come back again. I think I've completed the curriculum. I'm certainly like what I would consider enlightened, right? I still am very human, but that was such a monumental task and job for me to be able to really embody that unconditional love that I felt like, I'm good. I did it. I won the game. And after your work, I'm like, no, shit. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to come back, but
you have real fear around that.
But I mean, this is hardcore. I mean, I was crying this morning, dude, in my house. Just, we had a close friend just die. My dad died last year. And dude, sometimes just like the amount of the depth of how I feel, like how much I love my wife, how much I love my dog. I mean, sometimes I look at either of them and I just start crying because it's like I can already feel the heartbreak of letting go of that attachment to form.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what am I going to do? Stifle that love? It's like, no, you gotta just walk through it. You gotta actually open up even more to it, right? So I feel like I've gotten pretty good at that. But man, this like took the game up to another level, and in a really cool way makes this realm here more interesting to me.
Beautiful.
So I think, oh man, like, dude, you thought you were about to graduate, homie. You're in kindergarten in terms of this core, this core issue. And so a lot of what I was doing, I think some of that was revealed in the talk, but a lot of what I was doing throughout the 5 or 6 hours, however long we're on the table, and I'm sure you remember this. I don't know if I told you this, but I was finding artifacts of shame in my body.
Yep.
And I was fucking kicking them out.
Yep.
Verbally. Get the fuck out of my body. Anything that's not true. Which means anything that's not love.
Exactly.
Every molecule in my body, wherever you little goblins and gremlins are fucking hiding, you are not welcome here. It was like an eviction notice. 3-day notice. Dude, now you're out.
3 hour, I think.
Take a huge breath, and it's like, okay, that like energy's building up, and then, and you can only hope in those moments that what you think you're experiencing is real.
Yeah,
it feels like it. It's like, I think this is working. I think I'm really doing this right now. But then you think, maybe it's the medicine.
Yeah,
I could be imagining it. The proof is in the pudding. It's in the integration. It's like, am I different now?
Yeah.
It's not like I can tell how much I love myself, but does the way I think about myself, the way I talk to myself, and the way I behave, and my standards and boundaries, do those reflect a different embodiment of that self-love?
Yeah.
And it has been the case that I am and that I do.
Beautiful.
But still, I'm still looking at Kilimanjaro, and I'm like on,
how exciting is that?
I'm 20 feet up when I thought I was like pretty much near the top. It's been very humbling in that sense, and in a really beautiful way. And as I said, also just inspiring and kind of, motivating. That's like, oh man, cool. So it's not like I need to go get more self-love. It's that I need to fine tune my awareness around where shame is still existing in my field, and getting it the fuck out, and not allowing it to have a home within my space, my aura, my body, anywhere near me. It's like, you're not true. It's not integrity. It's not real. So if anything's not real, why would I ever tolerate it coexisting with me?
Yeah.
When what my goal in life is to be is real.
Yeah.
And love and all of those things, right?
Yeah. So there's a very interesting part. Do you mind if I speak to that?
Yeah, please.
So another reason for the format and the process is the touch side, right? Like when you start to talk about these more like spiritual or esoteric concepts of like releasing like shame, releasing pain, releasing negative energies, right? Like what I found is that nature doesn't like empty spaces. So when you purge, what happens is somebody purges or tries to let go of these things that were like once a core part of their either belief system or identity or all of it. If they don't go and fill those spaces with love, it remains empty and will most likely attract or be replaced by more negative.
Oh.
And so like this is a thing that a lot of people, a lot of people.
I think I'm filling mine with Mambe.
And-
Okay, that's love.
I mean, that's love, but that's
Joking, not joking.
that's not just like my perspective. That's like also like the Sufis' perspective on these things too, right? Like when you create a whole, their belief is you have to fill it with God, right? And like I just used a softer term that's not so charged for people, which is love. Like you have to go in and fill those spaces with love, or else the thing will just come back, or it'll stay, or it'll, and that's why I'm doing the body work so lovingly. So, long is like, not only are you pushing things out, but you're receiving and filling them with love.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was doing that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so now you're circulating and
Yeah,
you're
it was
filling
the
all of it.
inhales.
Yep.
I was like receiving the love that you were transmitting, right? And also there was all kinds of other things that I was seeing in the in mushroom land, but I mean all kinds of beautiful, amazing things. But I was inhaling all of that, and like pushing it into every cell of my body. And then when a big exhale would come, it was just like, okay, displacing. It's like a glass of muddy water, right? It's like you got to pour clean water in until the water becomes clear. That kind of thing. Yeah, is sort of what I was working with.
And that's going forward. The only reason I brought that up is as you continue to release shame, use that opportunity in those moments to fill with love, so that it actually stays out. And that's all. Like when people ask me, what do I do from here on out? Like, how do I maintain this? It's more like you said, like, in my opinion, the answer is self-love, right? Just fill it wherever you can, fill it. Fight the noise, fight the distortion of why you don't deserve it, of why you shouldn't have it. Going back to why these sessions are the way they are, is to make a person remember that and feel that, and like remove as much distortion from them giving into themselves as possible. The concept of a clean mirror. Like when you see yourself in a clean mirror, you actually see yourself clearly, and all that noise starts to fucking fade. And there's this other concept, like the seed of doubt. At some point, most of us go through a hardship in our life or a charged situation that plants a seed of doubt in us, right? And because the negative is so much stickier, so much more pervasive, it usually then continues to get watered through life, because our perspective is shaped around it now and looking for reconfirmation of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so like people come to me and they feel broken, they feel damaged, they feel all these things. And part of the talk process, going back to what you were asking, is taking them to a point before that seed of doubt was planted, so that they can see themselves cleanly.
Yeah.
And then being like, oh shit, everything I thought about myself was the root system of this seed of doubt. And it's all just leading back to that, and it can be multiple events. It can be different events, but it's not you. Like all of these things that, like the shame, it's not you, right? It was something somebody gave to you.
That was it. That was a key point. Could you speak more to that?
Yeah, because that was the one thing that I was trying to articulate to people, and it was just like, even though I think I'm doing things to, show that I'm lovable, all I'm actually doing is affirming and watering this seed of doubt. And so it's so counterintuitive to the actions, but I'm just setting up a system, as a younger man that's just saying, yeah, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah. So how do you want me to speak to that? Like, what is the actual way? Like,
well, the way that I was working with that idea was specifically, I mean, it's like, oh my God, after all these years, I'm like so sick of looking at it and talking at it, but it has such a profound impact on me that it's just, I don't know. It's like, it's my gift, man, to be able to have been abused when I was a kid, right? I mean, it's really like I was referring to earlier, true innocent, victim. Although I've looked at it from a karmic lens, and that's another conversation. Because who knows, like what else has transpired, and maybe it was an opportunity to pay a debt, as fucked up as it was. But I see someone who was disconnected from themselves and disconnected from love to such a degree that they were capable of committing something truly evil. Right? So I think evil is really it's almost like death. It doesn't exist. It's just the absence of something. It's the absence of love, right? Just like if your body's laying there and you're not in it, you're not dead. Just your body is absent of your spirit that was in it a few minutes ago, right? That kind of thing. But I was looking at that, in the talk portion of it, and you really helped me to, I don't know, reframe that. And the way that I interpreted it was, this person imprinted their distortions, their shame, their shit on me in a physical manner, and I'm sure on many other levels too.
Yeah.
And it got stuck in me.
Yeah.
And I've been carrying it, and it's been coloring my life experience for decades.
Yep.
49 years to be exact. I mean, it colors it much less now today, right? But it's like, wow, I don't actually own the origin of that. Like, that belongs to that gentleman. You know what I'm saying? Wherever he is. That's it. It never belonged to me. There was such a huge realization in that. Just to know, it was like a contagion almost, it's like something stuck to me that like wasn't mine. I didn't deserve, it didn't belong to me. So why would I continue to carry that?
Yep.
And there's many other life experiences like that where, I allowed things to happen or got myself in situations where things got on me too, right? When I had very little energetic hygiene, let's say, right?
Yeah. And you just described it so beautifully. And on my side, I'm just trying to help a person explore those things so that they can possibly, I don't like to, going back to the concept of meeting a person's where they're at. If they can take that perspective, I think it's a beautiful one to take, right? Of actually seeing where these things were forced upon you or given to you that aren't actually yours, but they've been with you so long that you think they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so then the exploration of that through the conversation and double clicking on a lot of okay, this happened to you. And then what happened after that? What did it make you believe about yourself? And then you get to see oh shit, this person's actions or this situation created an event inside me. And now I'm carrying the energy of it and watering that seed of doubt even more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I go back to the thing, I don't care what you do, I care why you do it. You can be doing the most kindest acts on the surface, but if you're watering that seed that thinks you're not worthy of standing up for yourself or having your own boundary,
oh yeah,
then
that's a big trick
or
right there.
If you're like performance driven and you hold the belief, even subconsciously, probably most of the time, that to be deserving of love, you have to perform. It's based on what you do rather than based on just who you are, the fact that you exist.
Yeah. And that keeps you so far away from self-love, right? And then all you're doing is you're stuck in that trap and perpetuating it through your own actions, reinforcing and reconfirming your subconscious belief system that was given to you. And that's my whole point with these conversations. These things aren't inherently yours. And that's the moment I think most people, like you just said, is it's like, fuck, this isn't actually me. This isn't part of my software. This isn't part of my code. Somebody put this in there. Now I get to choose, do I want to keep it? Or if I do keep it, can I alter it in a way that actually serves me? And then you become empowered, right? You move from victim back to empowerment, right? And so that process is so nuanced and so delicate and so situationally dependent on the person's where they're at and what they can hold and what they're willing to let go. With you guys, it was such a beautiful process because you guys were so open to it and were willing to go into these things and just catch them and play with them and challenge your own beliefs. That it's a beautiful experience to watch on my side, on both of your parts. And you ask why I can do this, because I can't think of a better way to spend my life. Sitting with people and just watching them heal themselves. How fucking grateful I am to I think I told both of you guys thank you for the trust, because without that, we couldn't have done any of this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, the seed of doubt is a way to frame it for people who are listening. Inheriting things through familial dynamics, through cultural dynamics, through friendship and relationship dynamics, through romantic relationships. And then there's, depending on what a person believes, ancestrally. And if they don't believe in ancestor stuff, epigenetically, it's been shown to transfer. And so what are you carrying that isn't yours? And how can I help you see a place where you can empower yourself or gain more sovereignty over the things you have inherited? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I don't know.
I was sitting there wondering what Lindsay takes from these conversations. You know, I have a guy that helps me, Jared, with my podcast, you know, and it's funny, like the time thing with you. I'm like, he's probably bored. Like I'll be sitting there and I'm like, oh God, Jared's probably so bummed right now. It's been 2.5 hours, whatever. And I had that thought about Lindsay, but she's over there smiling. I was like, oh, maybe she's digging this. It'd be so interesting to be a younger person and to, I don't know, this is not the kind of conversation that you probably hear in many circles and, you know, ways that people spend their time.
So she certainly heard my experience, you know, kind of, so she's somewhat familiar. Yeah.
So that's another layer I'm trying to hit is exposure, right? Like we can only go so far as the things we can either like kind of psychologically create. And so most people haven't had this experience, right? And once you do have the experience, you start to see, like you said, you're like, how could I have gone my whole life and not experience
It's the 1 minute mile, dude. Isn't that the Roger Bannister
4 minute? Yeah.
4 minute mile. Yeah. I don't know sports. That's your department. I just remembered the principle of it, right? It's like once people see that something's possible, the impossible becomes possible, right?
And once the felt sense of you having it, it makes it possible for you.
Right.
Like once what was like that, what the seed of doubt does is it takes you away from thinking you can have it inherently. Self-love. Right. And so like when you feel it come through yourself again, you're like, oh shit, this was here all along. This is endogenous. Like, and then once you've had that experience, it may take you trial and error getting back there, but you have a point to reference, a firsthand experience, a felt experience that was generated from within to work your way back towards over and over and over again. And like you said, like it's the new mountain. Like how much more can you give yourself self-love? Where am I not loving myself? Like in what circumstances do I think it's dependent on my behavior? Right? Then life becomes this beautiful opportunity and reflection of like, oh, still there. You know, what a fucking gift, you know?
Oh, you just reminded me. Another really cool aspect of the experience in relation to self-love was, and I've contemplated this and sort of played with it. I think had the awareness that it was a way you could, I don't know, like a tool, was around self-love. And I don't think I could articulate to Allison, no matter how many times I tell her. It's not that she won't receive it. It's just like, I don't know that any of us are able to totally receive it, but the degree to which I love her and the absolute lack of any conditions on that love is so pure. It's like, I literally don't care what she does ever. Like she could just stand or sit in one place for the rest of her life and not move or do anything. And I would love her just as much as if she did whatever, right? It's just like the fact that she's breathing and God created her as such a perfect being. It's so lovable. There's nothing that could stop me from loving it more and more and more all the time, right? So it's like when I look at her, because I'm looking from my perspective, she's absolutely perfect. There's nothing to change ever, right? So what I would do sometimes, and I was doing this in the experience with you, is trying to, can I know she feels like that about me too, according to her, and the way that, what I experienced as her. It's like, man, if I could just see myself as she sees me. God damn it. Why is that so fucking hard? Because if I had that, I'd have the shit nailed. Because I know she's experiencing that, right? And then even more profound than that, I really went into this kind of awareness on the table was with my dad who passed last year. And there's this, I don't know why, but there's this one little video I have that I took on a little outing with him, and we were rowing across this lake in a rowboat. And my dad was like a real mountain man, tough guy, even as he was older. So at this point, he's probably in his, I don't know, late 70s, maybe even 80 or something. And so we get in the boat, and like I'm rowing for a little bit, and I'm gassed. I'm just like, I make it 20 feet, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think we got to turn around. Like I can't hang. And he's just like, oh, I got it, And so he's, we're going that way, and he's facing me, and he's looking at me on the boat. There was just something about that moment. And it comes through in this little video that he was just like, so proud of me. Just because I was who I was. He was just proud that I fucking breathe.
Yeah.
He loved me because I existed and I was sitting on the boat. And just the power and the clarity of that unconditional love is so tangible to me.
Yeah.
So when I was on the table, I was literally, I maybe didn't have quite enough medicine to get there, but you can do some supernatural shit in those states sometimes. I've had really unexplainable situations, but I kept trying to superimpose myself into him as him to be able to see myself on that boat. Right? What was he seeing? How did he see me? Like, could I look at myself? It's kind of hard to imagine yourself though, physically, right? Make a picture of yourself. I mean, it's like why we have mirrors, I guess, right? I don't know what I look like. I can't even picture myself in my own mind when I'm on medicine or not. But I remember I kept it was like something I was grasping for throughout the experience. And at a certain point I was like, yeah, I think this is as far as I'm going to get, but it's a good touch point, right? It's a good mile marker of like, okay, I've seen what that looks like. I know what it was. And I have certainty about that. That's a really worthy goal, of like, wow, because that's how I saw him, sitting with him as he died. It's just absolute perfection of a human being, an imperfect human being that's perfect because of it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, imagine not only in my life, but just even, it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not magnify. It's like, imagine if more human beings were able to see themselves with that kind of unconditional love, and also see more people like that, not just the few core people that with whom they have intimacy, but it's like, man, because I've had moments like that. I'm at the grocery store, right? And I don't know, happen to be present in that moment. And I look at the person who's checking me out and just go, man, just fucking love them. And it's like, wow, man, you chose to come into a body. Good for you. You're awesome, man. You're doing this thing, It's like, wow, you there really is a world where we can live like that and see like that, both others and ourselves. But it's so hard without evidence, So now I have evidence. I have my wife, I have my dad, Cal, I have other people who I think know me and see me. So it's like, wow, okay, if they can do it, if they can see me like that, maybe there's a shot that I could see myself in the same way, because I know I can see them like that.
Yeah.
There's some in that like reversal of perspective. There's some block in there, right? It's the shame, it's the distortions. It's like, wow, it's so interesting that that's not just instantly accessible. Why is that even hard? What's up with that?
Seed of doubt.
Seed of doubt. We should put a band together, call it Seed of Doubt.
But there's a point I wanted to double click on.
Please.
Going back to that experience you had with your dad of like seeing how he looked at you.
I can't even watch the video, dude.
Yeah.
It's just, it's too overwhelming.
That's one of it's one of the conditions I'm hoping to create in a session. And so like why the talk becomes so important is because the mind does this interesting thing is like, okay, this person can claim that they like me because they don't know all of my fucking shit. They don't know all of my dirt. They don't know my complexity. They don't know my shame, right? And so what I'm doing on the back end of that is hoping to provide a space where a person can feel safe enough to share their most vulnerable shit and still receive touch and love and unconditional love from a person, to then hopefully see that if another person can do this and feel this way in spite of knowing every dark part of me, then why can't I give it to myself?
Oh.
And that's the question, right? And that's what I'm hoping to create the impetus for, is like, okay, like this is another human being who like, because we all do that thing in the back of my mind. Yeah, they don't really know me, you know, like, you know, like, yeah, they say they love me until they see this fucking side of me, or until I do that, until they know this about me, right? And like, that's the beauty of like, if a person will allow me to hear their whole story, it's like, it breaks all that down in their mind. It's like, wait, this person knows everything, all the dark parts I don't share with anybody, right?
Yeah, and they didn't walk out or call the police.
And not only that, they then proceeded to lovingly touch me for hours on end.
Right.
Now, what does that do? Hopefully I'm fucking cutting some roots off of that seed of doubt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then what I hope is that the person can take that and cut off more and continue to cut it off. And like, I believe that's the work going forward, is like you said, dealing with the shame, because the shame is the fucking seed, right?
That's the one, right?
That's the one for you. It's not for everybody.
Really?
Yeah.
People have their own shit.
People have their own shit.
Is shame the worst though?
Shame's a fucking hard one.
Oh man.
Shame is a fucking hard one. Right?
Wow.
But it's beautiful. And I love that experience, because the more reference points your mind has, the less it'll be able to hold its fucking position. You know?
Right. Because it's like a boogeyman anyway. It's a phantom. It's not true. It's not real.
It's not still here.
Yeah. And so like, how does it even have a place in reality?
The only way is if you energetically hold it and you keep watering it.
Right.
Through the narratives, through the beliefs, through the actions.
Yeah. That was, oh my God. I feel like I'm talking too much.
we do have, we're running out of battery.
Okay. Last,
so we got about 8 minutes.
Last thing I want to,
you're good.
Thread I want to pull, just because it's funny and awesome. For some reason, I just trusted you in the talk thing, and there's like things that were coming up, and I'm like,
but there were many reasons.
You don't really know this guy. Like, maybe don't say that. And I'm just like, well, if I'm here, like, we're doing it, you know? And so I shared some deeply personal and shameful things about my life and whatnot with you. And also to something you just pointed to, it's like those seeds of doubt, that those imprints of shame also, in my life, at least, I've noticed, and this became really clear in the work with you, is that they motivate me to do things that reinforce it.
Yep, exactly.
You know? And I'm like, when we were talking, I saw that, and those were some of the things I shared with you. And I was like, yeah, why do I do that thing? Because it makes me feel shameful, right? And sometimes it's the little things. It doesn't even matter how significant the thing is. It's just whatever. It's just something that feels grimy, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the huge gifts of that experience with you is I'm not doing those things anymore. And I didn't try to stop doing it.
Beautiful.
Like, I just noticed, like, no, like, not interested. I'm not going to do anything that doesn't support that self-love that I'm working on. The funny part of it is I got pretty excited. Maybe a couple months had gone by, and I was like, you know what? I think this probably be meaningful for Kyle. Remember that thing we talked about? Like, we're talking about the shame and the manifestations of shame. So, you know, so I sent this text to you, and I was like, man, it's just beautiful, you know? And I went into some detail around those things. And then I didn't hear back, and I was like, that's strange. I mean, I wasn't offended. I mean, maybe he's busy traveling. He's probably in a 20-hour session or something. Then maybe like a day or two went by. That's weird. Let me just check and see if he's replied. And I realized I'd sent it to another Kyle, who's an acquaintance that I know very little, right? And that was shame. Then I felt ashamed. I was like, oh my God, I'm mortified, dude. Like, he just got a text from a guy, like, he barely knows me. And I'm like sharing these really intimate details about shame in my life. So it was a beautiful like mistake, an orchestrated mistake, right? And I was like, Luke, you can't be so careless. Like, you need to look at the last name and make sure you always put the last name in. So, 5 Kyles and so on. And then I just saw like, no, this is actually perfect. Like, this was orchestrated by the unseen hand so that I could see another manifestation of shame.
Yeah.
Why do I care what Kyle number 2 thinks?
Yeah.
What the fuck? And he probably doesn't care.
Yeah.
But I was a little embarrassed. So I said, dude, my bad. Like, you're lacking a lot of context there, different Kyle. And he was like, oh, me too, man. I get it. It's all good,
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a big deal. It's just it's these things that we build into some monster that really have no.
And that's how you cut their head off, is exposure, by bringing light into them and like doing things that actively go against them protecting themselves.
Well, I did it accidentally.
Yeah.
So then I think I texted you and I was like, oh, dude, I tried to send this to you and it went to another guy.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, wow. But I think that's one of the coolest things about doing any kind of transformational or healing work is like, can you actually track tangible results?
Yeah. I like
that's what I've seen.
I didn't make this term up, but what I'm hoping to do is create altered traits and not altered states.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people are seeking altered states consistently, hoping to maintain the change. But what I'm hoping to do is create a process that helps somebody attain altered traits. Again, not my terminology, but beautiful to describe it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
How can people get in touch with you?
Instagram. Yeah, it's the best way. They can also find my website, but I think Instagram is a better resource. It's Kyle, Kyle Coursey, Coursey.
We'll have it linked in the show notes, but sure.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for your gifts and your work, and
thank you
for the love that you poured into me. I appreciate you.
Same. I appreciate the trust. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of weird saying thank you, huh? It's like, wow, that doesn't even come close, but I guess it's what we got right now. But
yeah,
I love you, man. I love your work. I love just the example and the guy who's climbing up that mountain, and we're just like, that's self-love. Yeah. And then we get to express that to those around us too. So yeah, I look forward to walking this journey with you.
Same.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah.